Hi, it's good to see you again this week. How was your week?
It was good, a little stressful. I had work, school.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
And you're in a new relationship we talked about last week.
I am.
And how's that going?
Good, See, we seem to kind of mesh really well. We kind of have the same ideologies. It seems like a good fit right now, so.
Good. And we also talked about the dog that is in your boyfriend. It's Mike.
Yeah.
Um, his life that he's had for quite some time. And you are not so thrilled about the dog. Tell me about the dog.
Well, it's a blue-nosed pit bull named Chubby.
Okay.
Big dog.
Okay.
Really, really scary. It's something that I try to calmly ease into, but I get too much anxiety. I tense up. It just freaks me out.
Is the dog rambunctious, or does he bark a lot, or
He
what
loves
scares you? What brings that anxiety out in you?
he loves to just come right up to you and jump. Like jump up, sniff you. Very intrigued by people that come through the door, specifically me because I'm new to the environment. So I don't particularly like when he jumps on me. It makes me like take a step back, breathe a little heavy, my heartbeat gets a little fast. So
So this relationship that you're in, this is worth it to try to overcome this, or how do you want to handle? Is this something you want to look into?
it's definitely a fear I want to get over because I want to see how this goes forward with Mike. And I think we're in such a good place right now that there's a need in me to explore it going forward. So,
Okay.
yes.
So I did think about it this week a little bit because I wasn't quite sure. You had a past experience with a dog as a young child, or is it more recent?
So, I was about 7 years old
Okay.
and I was walking down my street, and one of my neighbors had this really, really big pit bull dog, and it jumped over the fence and it actually bit me in my arm.
Oh my goodness. Did you have to have stitches or anything?
Yeah, so I had to have about 8 stitches, and it was a really long emergency room stay. I had to soak it, and ever since then.
It's very understandable. I understand. Okay, so that's actually something that we can explore as well, because that anxiety is probably going to still come up, and probably comes up even more so because it was the same breed of dog.
Right.
How are you around other dogs? Small dog? Like, is there other animals?
I think it's more so of the jumpiness of any dog that really gets me because I don't know what they're thinking. They're very unpredictable. So I'd say it's any dog, but primarily when I see a pit bull, it's like a trigger.
Okay, so this is definitely something you want to take care of then. So I did bring some papers in, and I just want to let you know that there's a couple ways that we could approach this, but I think the best way would be systematic desensitization. And what that is it's like a gradual exposure to your fear,
Okay.
building up to, obviously, what was the dog's name? Chubby?
Yes.
Okay. Chubby is going to be in your life, and you're going to be in Chubby's life. So obviously that is probably your highest level of anxiety that you feel being around the dog. Or once you get to the house, does the dog calm down? Does your anxiety relieve a little bit?
I think Mike does a really good job getting the dog to be calm because he knows how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been really understanding about where I'm coming from. That's because good. Of my past experience. Right. So he really tries to keep Chubby at a calm manner, and obviously he's his owner, so it's very Sure. They have a very different relationship Sure. than me being Sure. the new person in the house. Right. But as soon as I come in the door, Mike will take the time to calm him down and kind of just get him in a zen state so he's not all over me.
Okay. So he definitely understands your anxiety and he's trying to work with you. So
Right.
does he know that we talked about this last week? And,
Yes.
Okay. So you have a support system as well, which is
Right.
great. Because the exposure, what we can do is we could actually do it in a combination with a couple of practice elements that don't actually involve a dog, if you're more comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'll start with that first.
Okay, and then we can go into actually we can use Chubby.
Right.
We can start out with maybe going to maybe an animal shelter or something like that and walking through. I don't know if that's something that could build up your...
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about with the gradual exposure. So,
Okay.
and that wouldn't be something right off the bat, obviously.
Okay.
So, what I want you to do now is I have a blank piece of paper here for you.
Okay.
And I want you to think of things and write down, just brainstorm some things. And they don't have to be in any specific order. We can talk about that after you brainstorm some ideas down.
Okay.
What are some of the things surrounding the dog, any stimulus that has to do with the dog, that give you any level of anxiety? And it doesn't have to be a great level. It could be a low level anxiety, however you feel about that.
Okay. So, one is definitely barking.
Okay.
I know that it's near me.
Okay.
And it's like it's warning me it's going to do something.
Okay.
I would say 2, a big one, jumping.
Okay.
Whether it's up on its hind
friendly
legs
or
on
not.
me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's just
because I don't know if
act,
it's friendly or not.
and that probably goes back to getting bit by a dog that jumped
jumped
at
over.
you. Yes.
Right. So, I would say when they sniff me,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not sure if the scent is going to give them, like, a flight or fight response.
Okay, that's fine.
So, sniffing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, playful biting, even with toys, because...
Right, you don't know where it's going to go. It's that
Right.
uncertainty for you more so than anything else.
Right, so playing.
So while you're writing those, some of the relaxation exercises that
Mhm.
we've gone over, the breathing exercises, do you happen to do any of those, or does that not even come to mind when you're in that situation?
Something I do a lot is I try to do the 5-2-7 breathing to, like, calm the nervous system inside of me.
Okay.
It'll calm my nerves, but I still have that thought that, like...
Because you're not really focusing on the breathing
Right.
because your anxiety level's that high?
Yeah.
Okay.
So...
Okay.
Pet,
So this is a what is it?
petting or touching.
Okay. So this is something that usually, it varies because it just depends on the progress.
Right.
But the thing about it is that once we get through stage 1 and we talk about it and your level of anxiety is decreased when you're acting that one thing through, that one stage and being exposed to the stimulus,
Yeah.
then we'll process that, and once you're okay with it, we'll move to the next one.
Okay.
If you're not comfortable with the progression that quickly, we can slow it down, we can go back and revisit steps, we can mix it around.
Okay.
So brainstorming this will give us an idea, and we'll figure out this hierarchy here in a minute.
Okay, so another one is running towards me.
Okay.
I would say just being in the same room,
Mm-hmm.
just because I know that they're there.
Now, do like pictures of dogs or anything like that? Does that bring up a fear for you, or are you looking at a calendar like, oh, that's a cute little puppy? Or are you like, wow, that's going to turn into a dog that's going to bite me?
I would say the only time I get anxiety if I'm looking at a picture, if it's specifically a pit bull, just because it brings me back to that moment.
Okay.
But not necessarily like, oh my god, that dog's going to jump off the calendar and like.
Does Mike have any pictures of him and Chubby like around the house or anything?
No, but they definitely are on his Instagram if you scroll through.
Okay.
this is like a weird fear, but dogs on a leash,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know if they can get away from their owner or not, because some dogs are really powerful,
Okay.
and a lot of times dogs don't like to be contained.
Okay. Does Mike walk Chubby on a leash?
No, he has like a really big backyard that he lets him like go around and roam in, and he has all of his toys out
Does
there.
he walk him at all?
He's really trained,
Mm-hmm.
so if he does, like, he's normally typically by Mike's side.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really just anywhere on the block because they're kind of friends with all their neighbors, so it's not. Like,
Have you ever been on a walk with Mike and Chubby?
No.
Okay.
Negative.
So that's quite a big, that's a lot of things to go over. So you have barking, jumping, sniffing, playing with toys, petting, touching, oh, okay, running towards you, being in the same room, dogs on a leash, okay.
Oh, when they greet you. Like at the door.
Right. Does he jump up on the door and stuff when you just come to the door and can you see through the door, or is the door solid?
So it's like one of those doors, and when he jumps up, you can like hear his nails on the door. That like right there, like.
Okay.
You said 10, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, not 10 necessarily. We're going to do 10. The exposure hierarchy, we're going to do 10 situations that build you up with your least amount of stress. A situation that would involve a pit bull, a dog, Chubby, any sort of contact, or maybe just looking at a picture of a pit bull. And we're going to figure out what your greatest fear is.
Yeah.
And what your least fear is.
Okay.
Then we're going to go with a middle one in the 5 range. And then we'll fill in the places.
Okay.
And this is going to be the actions that you're going to take to get to the 10 to overcome your fear.
Okay.
And the gradual exposure will give you confidence to move on to the next spot. Because once you've completed one and you don't have as much anxiety as you once did for that one action or one stimuli that involves that level of anxiety, then we'll move on and we'll get over. And actually, the systematic desensitization is more proven to have a more lasting effect because it is gradual and it's not an all at once getting over your fear. I don't know if you've ever seen Fear Factor or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to go that route. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up with something that may be the least amount that we're going to start out with and the highest amount. And the score you're going to put by it is going to be from 0 to 100. And that's your level of anxiety. I like to think of it in maybe increments of 10. And that way you can gauge, if it could be 0. It could be, your first one could be 20. It doesn't make a difference. But the next one, when we get to the highest level, obviously that's probably going to be a very high number.
Right.
So then maybe when we go back and fill in, if your first one is a 20, maybe the second one is more like a 28 or a 27 or something of that nature rather than a 40. Or it's just easier. You can break it down a little bit better than going from 0 to 10 where you were stuck with one number.
Right.
Okay? So your first thing, even you talked a little bit about the pictures. Now, how would you feel if you were to put one of Mike and Chubby's pictures from Instagram as your screensaver on your phone for a little bit? Would that be something that would give you anxiety looking at it every time you picked up your phone or every time you opened your phone?
Not necessarily anxiety, more maybe of like a flashback. So it might be like good to kind of get used to just looking at Chubby himself because I know I'm going to be around him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something I could do, but I'd have to get used to it, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
So would that be something on the one side, or do you want to save that for the middle?
We can put that on the one side.
Okay. So, screensaver of chubby. And what level of anxiety do you think that would give you? Just looking at that all the time, daily.
Maybe like a 5.
Okay. So that's not that bad. I mean, that's
I think
still
that's
not.
something I could
Mm-hmm.
gradually overcome the more I look at it.
Now, what would Mike say about that? You'd have that screensaver.
Probably think it's a little weird. That's okay.
And obviously, the 10 is gonna be like just being around chubby in general, or is there like?
I would say it's the jumping.
Okay, so we can't control chubby, but so just does he jump when you're watching TV or something, movie or something? Does he jump up?
On the couch?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So extended period of time with chubby.
Right.
Okay. And what would you say your anxiety level would be there?
Like a 90.
Okay. Okay. So somewhere in the middle range. What did we have? We had sniffing, jumping, playing with toys.
Middle range,
Mm-hmm.
I think, would be like barking, because it doesn't necessarily give me high anxiety, but it catches me off guard to like where I kind of stop and I jump.
Okay.
And he barks a lot when you get in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Or like when he's hungry,
Mm-hmm.
or when he wants to go out. So like when I'm already in the house and I'm not aware like that he's gonna bark because he wants something, like that'll like
Startle you.
right.
And that's something that you're going to have to deal with all the time because dogs bark all the time.
Right.
So the barking, and we'll leave that at 5 for now, but I have one idea, and I don't know if this is something that you are interested in.
Right.
There is an app that you can download on your phone with dog sounds on it.
Okay.
And one of the steps could be to listen to that for a certain period of time every day as homework.
Okay.
But at the same time, do that breathing exercise.
Right.
To kind of focus on the breathing and the noise in the background so that you're taking those relaxation steps at the same time that you're listening to the stimulus that cues the anxiety in you. Do you?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. So the barking is kind of the middle of the road for you.
Right.
So what would you rate your level of distress when you hear the barking? Does it maybe depend on the type of barking too?
Yeah, I mean, like there are a lot of like, and I hate using this term, but like yippy dogs,
Mm-hmm.
where they're like not as scary.
Right.
They're just loud. And I definitely think like when you get that like deeper bark, that really catches me off guard. I would say it's like a 45, 50 area, just because that's something that like I just hear all the time.
Right.
So.
Okay. So I'm going to give you this, and I want you to fill in some things in the 2, 3, 4 range and the 6, 7, 8, 9 range.
Okay.
And you know how to mark the anxiety levels. And while you're doing that, I'm going to just let you know that there's other things that we can do. So to keep these in mind when you're filling these in. You can certainly try to go on a walk with Mike and Chubby
Right.
as one thing. And then, you're outside too, and it's not as a small enclosed space. That seems like that may help you cope a little bit better with your anxiety, just being not as in closed quarters.
Right.
And another thing would maybe be not involve Chubby whatsoever, but in other dogs, like maybe a smaller dog. Do you have family members that have dogs? No.
No, because once
So
I was
you've been
bit,
protected.
yeah, they don't.
Okay. So one of the things may be to go visit a shelter
Mhm.
or even a pet store.
Okay. I like the pet store idea better because most of them are behind glass.
Okay. So, that's just something like, fit that into your hierarchy as one of the actions that we can review, and what would be the level of anxiety that would cause in a pet store.
In a pet store?
Mm-hmm. And then maybe the second thing would be going back to the pet store, or the fourth thing after the pet store, going back to the pet store and having them actually take one of the puppies out and letting you pet
Okay.
it.
All right.
Are you okay with this?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Playing with the toys. And does Chubby have a lot of toys?
His favorite's the rope, which
Of
means
course,
you have to hold on the other end.
He probably growls, right?
Right.
Always doing it. Okay, so this is good, and we're all filled in. Now, do you feel comfortable with actually going through these steps? Going to the pet store?
Yeah.
And then having a pet come out and petting it maybe the next time. And this is going to take some time, just like I said.
Right.
We don't have to rush through this. I think the screensaver
is a good
start.
Right.
And there's no time frame. It's at your confidence level that you're able to move on to the next step. And I'm sure that it sounds like Mike is going to be supportive and he'll be there to help you through the process.
Right.
Okay. And what I want you to do for homework this week is maybe pick a cute picture of Chubby and Mike together, put it on your screensaver. Okay. But I want you to intentionally look at it for a length of maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
At one point during the day.
Yeah.
When you have time to do that. But at the same time, I want you to concentrate on those breathing exercises at the same time. And I want you to know how your level of anxiety was when you start the exercise and what it is at the end of the exercise. Okay. And that way we can see if the breathing helped. And I'm going to have another paper here for you that is a journal log.
Okay.
And you can write those down, the days that you did it. Mm-hmm. You can write down the screensaver day 1.
Okay.
You write down your little chart of numbers from 1 to 100 or 0 to 100, because maybe by the end you're a 0.
Okay.
And when you come back next week, we'll talk about it, and we'll see if you want to move on to the next step, which we have down here as sniffing. So maybe you're going to take one of your items of clothing and you're going to let Chubby have that for the week. And maybe when you go over there, because we all have our own sense and what you wear and all that.
Right.
Maybe once he gets used to it too, it'll be a little bit different, and we can try that for the second one.
Okay.
Okay. And if you're not ready to move on from the screensaver next week, we'll discuss that and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
That sounds like a plan.
But make sure you do the relaxation techniques and keep in mind that we can always move things around or change things up if you want to go back and forth. If you want to move ahead to the sniffing thing during the week this week, if you feel comfortable after you've done the screensaver a couple of days and you want to try that in combination with the screensaver,
Yeah.
that's fine too. It's
Okay.
at your pace. This is your comfort level. Whatever you're comfortable with, that's how we're going to move through.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right. We'll see you next week. Good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.